Hey, everybody. It's Tanya here, and this is Stream Like a Boss TV. I am super excited and thrilled to be here with you on another Thursday evening. So, look, if your content is feeling a little stale or you're finding that you struggle to continue to create new content, if you're feeling a little bored with it, if you're feeling disconnected from it, that's what I want to talk about tonight. I have been there a lot and very recently. And so we want to talk a little bit about what the issue is. And I also want to share with you something that I'm doing about it, right? One of the things that I think is that we often suspect that it's a platform or it's the content we're talking about, it's the algorithm, it's all these things that we're pointing a finger at. But really, it could be that you're telling yourself an old story, and the old story is running the show. So I want to talk a little bit about that. This is especially going to be important and critical for those of you who, much like me, are in midlife and beyond, and you're thinking about how different things are now than maybe they were for you 20, 30, maybe even 10 years ago. So that's what we're talking about this evening. Look, Jose, it's wonderful to see you. Florida is in the house and the house is packed. Yes. I see Saeed, the facilitator from Germany. It's so good to see you. Look, and Saeed knows what to do. Here's the deal. If you're new to the show, what we ask is that you put a hashtag newbie in and let us know where you're from. If you've been here before, we call you hashtag OG because you're family. You know us, we know you, and this is family here. So hashtag OG or hashtag newbie. Let me see if I've got my little sign that I like to put up in here. It's been a minute since I've been on, so there we go. Hashtag newbie or hashtag OG. I see lots and lots of OGs in the house. It is so wonderful to see you here. Okay, so I see Evie. What's up, Evie? John Lacey is in the house. Michelle, hey, OG. I know. What's a pro-G? A professional OG, I guess. That's pretty cool. Tisha Lee, I love it. I'm so happy to see you. Hey, OG here, but I haven't been around forever. I know, but it is so wonderful to be able to see you here in the chat. Look, we have a lot of fun in here. So while I do have some structure to this conversation and I want to share a few things that I think will resonate, we'll see, right? I do also love to just have fun. So if you at any point have questions, if there's comments you want to share, if something is resonating with you, then I want you to pop that into the chat. So this is going to be a pretty different type of conversation that I'm going to have. I just turned 54, y'all. I know. They say ladies shouldn't tell their age, but I'm proud of it. I'm proud that I've made it this far and excited about getting to the next several years, whatever that looks like for us, right? And it is so eye-opening. It's so revealing. Once you get over 40, things start just flying by and you start getting hit with these different revelations at different points in life. And so I do want to share some things that I think will be relevant to you if you're also in your mid, but even if you're a bit younger than that and you're kind of anticipating what to look forward to. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and talk about, again, the disconnect between your content, where it is now, and who you are becoming and what the story is that you're telling about yourself. And I'm going to share some personal experiences in there, but I'd love to hear from you as well. So thank you for the happy birthday wishes, y'all. Yes. It is so awesome to see you as well. I love it. Okay, so if you have felt yourself repeating same messages and you're not connecting to the content the way that you used to, maybe you were saying the same story, you were telling the same bio, you were sharing the same experiences 10 years ago, and now for some reason it just feels like a disconnect because you get into this robotic mode and start saying the same thing, but you're not feeling it in here and it comes across in your content. That's the disconnect that I want to talk about. Okay, so for those of you who know how the show works. What we're going to do again, put your hashtag newbie or hashtag OG, depending on where you fall into the family. And I'm going to share a very quick video. And on the other side of this video, we will dive into the content. So we've got questions, we've got comments, we've got stuff we need to talk about, y'all. And I will give you at least 3 ideas for getting clear on your story. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay. All right. So grab yourself your notepad and your pen and your favorite cup of hydration. And I will be back on the other side of this super short video. We'll see you in a second.
Building a space where the bold come to play. Stream like a boss, this is your day. Stream like a boss, take the crown. Lift your hustle, don't back down. Build your crew, make it thrive. We go live, live, live.
All righty, folks. So I am back. And yes, this is Tanya Smith with Stream Like a Boss TV. This is where we help you as a live streamer, a coach, a consultant, somebody who's doing something in the service industry. If you're leveraging video content in a conversational way, such as live streaming or video podcasting, this is where you can find out how to leverage that type of content and go from crickets to cash. That's what we talk about. But additionally, I feel like there's a bit of a shift in the way that I talk about this topic. And so I really want to hit on that tonight as we cover the conversation about disconnect, right? So this whole idea of your old story being a roadblock to your growing content, because maybe now you're on a roll, maybe now for whatever reason, you've started to get consistent and you're excited about that, but something is falling short. There's not like a heart alignment. There's not a soul alignment to what it is you're talking about. And I'm going to share, again, a little bit of a backstory and some personal input here about how that is something that has really been affecting me and what I'm doing about it. Here's the thing. The reason why I think this is super important to talk about is because besides the fact that I had the birthday recently, right? I'm also hearing a lot of people who are just seeing a disconnect to the things that they used to be really into. The joy just isn't there anymore as it relates to the different content and the things that they're putting out into the world. And maybe they've been someone who, like myself, I've been coaching for 20 something years now. And yet my business has shifted and moved and morphed over the years with every iteration of who I am as a person. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Now, before we dive deep, hopefully you grabbed your notepad and your pen, because I feel like there might be something that you can take away. And I love to give you actionable items, right? But additionally, I like to tell you why this matters. I think that this matters because when you mature, your story changes. As things around you, the culture, the environment, there have been some dramatic changes in the way that our world is working, especially if you live in the U.S., but really anybody in the world is being impacted and affected by all of the things that are going on. So the things that may have been important to you before may no longer take a front seat. Maybe there's something else that's taking a front seat. So it's not only just about age and maturing, it's also about the shift in the things that are happening, the environment around you that could be changing your story. And the content has to change because your story is changing, because who you are and what is important to you, what is put into the front seat has shifted. What is making up who you are becoming is changing. And when that happens and your story needs to change, if you don't change it, you're going to feel the disconnect. It's going to come off stale. It won't be a connection, not only for you, but it definitely won't connect to the people that you're talking to your audience. So I know there's a difference between that and the other thing. The other thing that I know that some people talk about is this idea that I've been talking about this particular topic for so long, I'm bored with it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you really literally are finding that your content is no longer sticking. Like maybe at some point it was the jam and everybody was migrating to you and they were like, yes, that's what I want to hear from that person. But something is shifting and changing, whether it's mentally, if maybe it's on a heart level, a soul level. It could be any number of reasons why those changes happen. Primarily for me, it definitely is, I'm going to say it's a combination of things. There are certain things that I would never put up with now that I probably gave a little bit more tolerance to in my younger years. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So if you've ever felt like, in fact, here's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to put it this way. And then I want to acknowledge some comments that I see and say hello. If you're a person who feels like 10, 20 years ago, the things you prioritized then were different than what you prioritize today, I want you to put a raise hand emoji into the chat. Or maybe even do this, just type a 1. If that resonates with you, that the things that were important to you and the content that you delivered 10 years ago or longer is no longer the same. It just doesn't feel the same as what is important to you today. I'm curious, and I want to see how many people are really feeling the shift like I am. By the way, I usually announce what I'm using. So let me go ahead and make sure I do that. I am currently leveraging Restream as the back end. Actually, 𝐬𝐷𝐿 Live is my major, right? But I scheduled everything through Restream so that it's going out to Substack, it's going to LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. So hello, wherever you are. I appreciate you, sending you love across the miles. I'm in Texas, where it's still hot, but we're starting to head into fall a little bit. So I would love to know where you're from and to see your greeting as well. Let me go ahead and do a really quick check-in with the comments and say hello to some folks. I do not have my Substack comments on for this evening because it takes a little extra work to do that. But I do want to say hello to some folks. Unlearning Stress with Michelle O'Neill in the house. What's up? Tisha Lee. I know I did get your comment in there, so I want to put that up on screen. Good to see you. Saeed, the facilitator, is like an OG but more pro. The Pro G. I know, right? Pro G, somebody put it there. I love it. It is so awesome to see you as well, Tisha. I love that you're here. So thank you. And thank you for the birthday wishes I'm seeing in the chat as well. Saeed, 42. Yeah, I think I would have guessed a 20-something for you as well. But you're holding it down. That's what we do. What's up, Dan, in the house? And I see Right Mix for Business by Sue Ann. Yes, evolving media times. And this is, it's a whole thing, y'all. We're seeing that in real time, are we not? Gabe, you just started your Substack. Okay, I have to go and follow, so I'll make sure that I do that. And I love that you're sharing that your narrative is definitely different from where you started as a content creator. It's ever changing, still formulating now. I do see these 1s in here. Yes, I do see them. So the older I get, the less energy I have, the more I have to be strategic about where I put it. Yes, John, Golden Nugget. Yes, absolutely. Dr. 𝐓𝐷𝐄 in the house. Greetings. And I wish you and your family well also. So thank you so much for being here. Amanda is in the house from the Dames. Girl, how you doing? How you doing? And Evie, thank you for the happy birthday. Okay, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about this thing. And you are fabulous. Yes, you are fabulous over 50. That's where we are in this moment in our lives. Okay, let's do this. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about, I've already shared a little bit about why this matters, right? For me, and I'm going to give you tip number 1, naming your old story and understanding and identifying what that is super important and critical. And so let me go ahead and share this with y'all. One of the reasons why this is such an incredible topic, I have had to do some deep dives in the last few months. And some of you know a little bit about my history and the context. You know that I've had several family members that have passed away in just a very short amount of time in the past few months. And I have one that we've learned has a very short time left. So more to come, right? And it's eye-opening, it's revealing. But on top of that, there have been other losses and things that I won't talk about. Additionally, there has this whole societal upheaval, all the things that are happening with people getting shifted or separated from their jobs because of comments that they've made, with people, well, you know, I don't have to go through all of that, right? You know, there's a lot. And so it had me really, I don't even want to say in a depression, but I probably have been on the edge. I'm going to be real on that. I've probably been on the edge. There have been some really great and amazing things that have been happening, but at the same time, there's a lot that's super heavy. And so when you get into that mode and you start really examining the why and naming what it is that you're facing and dealing with, that's really the first step to redemption. I know this because I've lived long enough through many of these cycles, as some of you probably have too. And so I had to sit down with myself and start naming and understanding, like, what is this that I'm feeling? Why is it so hard for me to get up and to create content? You may have noticed that I've done a lot less video content than I used to do. I was on a roll and I'm still consistent, but it's very different than what I was doing. And I'm not feeling like I'm not putting myself in a position to where I'm handcuffed to the video camera anymore. See, what was happening is, for me, and this is what I recognized because I'm doing the work. For me, the old story was, if I don't keep feeding the beast of social media, then I'll somehow disappear. If you can't see it on social media, it didn't happen, right? People get so wrapped up in that. I was teaching others to play by the same rules. See, long ago, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was a social media coach. So I was helping people actually learn how to leverage social media. And when I started live streaming about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even a little bit less than that amount of time, when I started live streaming, at that point, it was out of a sense of desperation because I was struggling. My organic reach on my social media feeds was going downhill, like it was nil. And some of you might be facing this right now, right? A dramatic decline and drop in reach. And so I made a decision to live stream out of a sense of desperation because, this is the bio that I was telling people, by the way, when I would do my keynote speaking and my stage presence, I would talk about this story about how I started live streaming. Okay, so this was the story. I want you to follow me on this. And as I'm talking about this, I want you to think about the story that you're telling that may no longer be the story you need to tell. So I want you to name the old story. So for me, when I sat down and I started thinking about it, the old story was telling people, feed the beast. Live streaming was feeding the beast. The reason why I was doing it is because I recognized this is an opportunity for me to be able to be seen and to get visibility. The name of my LLC is Get Noticed with Video. Duh, right? So I'm like, hey, visibility equals putting myself on camera, even though I don't want to do this. This is not my jam. I was a person before that who would never be on camera at all. Okay? Unless I absolutely had to. And so I started doing this live streaming thing because I was feeling compelled to do so. And by the way, I fell in love with it because I knew that it would be a way to tell stories, right? And to share with other people what I know, even what I knew before I started doing on camera from a branding and marketing perspective. I wanted to share those tips. I wanted to talk about digital apps and do walkthroughs and demos, which I still do now, right? I wanted to talk about systems and workflows and all of those things. And I still do these things now. But the reason behind me starting is because I felt a sense of desperation. And so much like some of you may still be in this story, in that chapter, I was attempting to follow the rules. So the rules that each of the social media platforms were telling me I needed to follow, I said, okay, I'm going to follow those rules so I can get the visibility, so I can do this, so I can do that. And that was important to me. And like I said, I was teaching other people, post more. You got to get out there and you got to do this 10 times a day on every single platform. And no, you can't schedule it. You've got to do it manually. You need to do it from your phone. Stay visible, increase your reach, all of those things. And it worked at that time. The old shoes, let me give you an analogy. I need to make sure y'all are getting what I'm saying, right? Yes, Tisha, so done with the rules. Okay. And again, yes, Princess said different season right now. Totally. Because another story, let me tell you this part of the story, and then I'm going to give you the analogy that I think will help you to really get where I'm going with this. So another story that I was telling myself, coming from corporate, I've been in the corporate world for 35 or so years now, okay? And one of the stories that I told myself is that you need to get along. You need to be nice. You need to play nice. You need to conform. An example, my very first week in a corporate role, y'all are going to love this, but it's true. I promise you, it's so true. First day on the job at this huge corporate headquarters, everybody had on a navy blue suit. Everybody. This is back when we were wearing suits. So yes, I had a navy blue jacket, a navy blue skirt. I had the hose and the navy blue heels. Okay. The second day, everybody had on gray. Third day, everybody had on some type of tan or khaki or brown colored suit. But the conform rule was in play. And at that time in my 20s, that's what I thought I was supposed to do in order to fit in and to be successful, conform. And I carried and brought that corporate mentality with me into the space of what I was doing in my own business once I became a business owner. That I need to conform. I need to do the things that other people say that you must do. And I need to fit into the box. So even when I started live streaming, I was watching other people's live streams and I was like, okay, I need to try to fit the mold of what other people are doing. So I started watching people like Marie Forleo, and I was watching some of the guys out there. And I was watching people that were successful in this space. And I thought, okay, well, I have to try to be like them. And guess what? It didn't work. It didn't, but it got me by. It got me through that period of time, right? What got me through in my 20s and 30s won't get me through in my 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I don't know if you are hearing what I'm saying and that resonates with you, but it's truth. Conforming to other people's impressions or perceptions of what you should be is probably not working for you, especially the older you get, and definitely not in today's environment. Because it's a huge requirement to try to fit everybody's mold of what they think you need to believe, what they think you need to say, how they think you need to speak or not speak and be silent, right? All of those things are different. So the old story was like an old pair of shoes. Now, I've had 2 babies. Before I had my second, I was wearing a size 6, right? Size 6 shoe. During my second pregnancy, I went up to an 8, maybe even an 8.5. And then after she was born, a little while later, I went back down to a 7, but I stayed at a 7. I've stayed at a 7 since then. What I'm saying is I can't go back and wear those 6 shoes. The size 6 no longer fits. I'm in a different place. I'm in a different space in my life. I have matured and moved into a different season. So if I try now to go back and put on that size 6 shoe, I'm going to be walking around hurting. And that's what some of us are doing, is we're trying to wear the old shoes and they no longer fit. I hope y'all are getting this right. So you need to take the time to identify, what is the old story that I'm continuing to walk around with and tell myself? Because look, when I talked about how it matters, let me tie it to your content. Whatever you're talking about right now, you probably need to make a shift. It may not be the same subjects that you were talking about before, or it may be in a different way that you're talking about that thing. Your shoes, instead of being loafers, maybe now you're wearing heels. Maybe now you're wearing Converse. I don't know what you're wearing now, but it's probably different than the shoe size and the shoe type that you wore 20 to 30 years ago. So understanding what your story is now, to me, that's a critical piece of understanding the type of content and the people that you want to reach may even be changing and shifting too as a part of that story. But the story that you're telling now, here's the assignment for you, action takeaway 1, and then I'm going to go to some comments. Takeaway 1 is I want you to ask yourself, what is the story about who I have to be that's still running my business? What did I tell myself that somehow I've carried with me and I keep telling myself, but it's no longer resonating? If you can spot one story that you have outgrown, I want you to type in old. And I'm not calling you old. I'm saying it's an old story. It's a bag. It's baggage that you're carrying. So if you got one story that you've outgrown, I want you to type in the word old. And I'm going to pop up some comments and see what we're saying here in the comments, because, I love to hear from all of you. Let's see. Yes, the older I get, the less filters I have. Same. And we're unapologetic about it too. Are we not, Michelle? We are unapologetic. At this point, it's like, okay, I'm going to say what needs to be said. Still gracefully and with professional tone in most cases. Yes. With all the AI around, I truly appreciate content I've created with my bare hands even more. And Saeed, you do so much because you are such a creative mind. I love to see what you pull together. I think that there are a lot of people that are going to be leveraging AI, and then there are going to be people that don't gravitate towards that. And all of us have an opportunity to do so many amazing things. John, I hear you. It's hard to concentrate on a side hustle when the world is a dumpster fire. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that feel that way right now. And this, again, is part of you examining what impact can you make? What is the story that you're carrying, right? I ditched my old brand, Tisha Lee says, because the body positive fairy godmother and those messages I shared aren't my truths any longer. I've evolved and changed so much since starting that. Right. And it's not to say that it was wrong at the time. It's just that you've made a shift. You've moved into a different season, and it's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay for that to be different for you right now. Just as Princess said, it's a different season. That is absolutely okay. Saeed said, often people will tell you how they see you, where you shine, and what your brand represents to them. And yes, there is a level of perception that we're managing, right? Especially if we put ourselves out on social media, people are going to perceive all day what they want to see in you and about you. But in the end, you get to define who you are, what you stand for, what you say, what you talk about, who you're talking to. That's all on you. You have to be accountable for that. Tisha Lee said, preach it, girl. Yes. Yeah. Oh, but your sister-in-law's feet grew in pregnancy too. Yeah, it was crazy. Because then, you got to change out all your shoes, which is crazy. Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Okay. And I'm seeing the word old in here. Yes. Miss Tanya, this is so ironic. I'm hosting a show tomorrow morning about a subject that my old self would not host. Hello. 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 Okay. So these are things that will happen as you start to name your story. So your first piece of homework from tonight is I want you to ask yourself, what is the story that you're carrying that you used to carry this story around and tell this story over and over again about your business, and you're still carrying it with you? I want you to name what that story is and identify what that story is. And I had to do some heavy work to figure that out. And I was like, oh, okay, I see I'm in a different season, because now as I sit down and I think about what I was saying in my bio, what I was talking about on stage, who I was talking to, all of these things, yeah, I can see where I am feeling different now. I'm in a different season, just as Princess said. Okay, so that's your first piece of homework, is to name it. Identify the story. Second segment, this is what I want to talk a little bit about. You need to spot where the story is sneaking in. Okay. I thought that I had made the shift. So I'm going to share this because some of you will know if you've watched my recent shows. Probably season 7, maybe even a little bit of season 6 is where I started making this shift, because I was getting frustrated. I was getting mad. I was upset about how I was seeing things through social media lens, right? Because remember, I used to feed the beast because that's what I thought we were supposed to do. And then I said one day, why am I doing this? Why am I bending over backwards? Why am I getting high blood pressure? Why am I doing all these things just to try to conform to somebody else's vision of what I should do on social media? Somebody else, and I don't just mean individual people, I mean these platforms out here, okay? Twitter, I gave that up a long time ago. I had over 13,000 followers on that space. There were people that were saying, you're an idiot for getting rid of it. You should use it for social proof. I made a decision. It wasn't worth it anymore for me to be in that space. It was like poison in my veins. I'm just being real, okay? This is my perception. It did not feel like a place that desired me to be in there. I did not feel valued. I felt like the conversation was taking me down a dark path, and a path that I chose not to be a part of. And so I left. Same thing happened March 2024 with my Facebook group. I was striving. Y'all know how we get on the hamster wheel. And I was like, okay, I just got to get past this number. I'm stuck on this number at 400 and something, and I'm trying to make it. And I just need to keep putting content out there, and I need to just keep on, and barely getting any type of response, by the way. It was crickets in there. But I felt like I needed to have it because, hey, everybody has a Facebook group. Everybody has a this, right? I felt like I was supposed to have it, but I made a decision one day about a month before that, and I gave everybody 30 days notice and said, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm done. And it was right before Meta made the decision that they were going to stop people from being able to do live streams unless you were doing it through a native app or you did all these workarounds. Because we used to be able to do it. For those of you who don't know, we used to be able to go into a group, a Facebook group, and live stream to our audience directly from in there, right? But all these things were changing and shifting, and I just got frustrated, and I said, it's not giving me the bang for my buck. The time that I'm putting in is not giving me the return on investment of the time that I'm putting in to manage this and to make it work. And, there were people that would say, hey, you need to go just outsource it to a Facebook manager or do, all of these things. But in the end, you get to choose what and how you run your business. And so I chose. So that was another thing I decided. I'm a grown up. and this is me in my 50s now at this point, I'm a grown up, I'm going to let it go. In my 20s and 30s, because of the story I was telling myself, I probably would have said, oh no, I can't give up my Twitter account. Oh no, it's too many people. Oh no, I'm not going to give up my Facebook group because it can grow. I can just keep on hustling. If I just get up and I never sleep, I'll put the right content in and I'll get the right formula and magically everything is going to. No, I made a decision. I was done. And I was going to focus my efforts on the things that worked, the things that fit my lifestyle, the things that suited me, the culture and the community that I wanted to build. I decided to create myself. And that's how I ended up creating Stream Bosses Academy in Heartbeat Chat, is because I made a decision as a grown-up that I wanted to create the space that I wanted to see. But when I talk about this tip 2, about spotting where your story, the old story, still sneaks in. So some of you know I've moved into this space of owning, being a landlord, not a renter of land. So no matter what platform I'm hanging out on, they don't own me. That's the way I see it. My position is I monetize on my spaces. I monetize in my community and in my website and on my stuff, right? I built my email list, and this is where I monetize. The other spaces, they're going to get me on there because I'm leveraging and using them just like they're using me for the visibility aspect of things. But I'm no longer feeling like I'm handcuffed to any of these spaces to do what I need to do and to reach the people I need to reach. That is my new story. That is the story I've been growing into and finally understanding and really just like gravitating to, is that for me, it's about being platform proof and algorithm independent. You've heard me say this in season 6, 7, and now season 8. That's the story I've been moving into and didn't even realize I was shifting my story, which then begins to shift your bio, which then begins to shift what you talk about, potentially what you talk about on stage. There are also other things as I move into a different season of life where my kids are almost out of the house. One of them is out of the house, right? The other one, she's on her way to being an adult. Things have shifted to where some of the stuff I used to talk about is not as important and relevant to me anymore to talk about. Now I have a new mission. I know there's a new potential audience of people that I need to talk to and be real with, right? On a whole deeper level. And so I started, for instance, the Midlife Unmuted podcast, just to put my toe in the water and to see, is this a space that I love? And I absolutely enjoyed speaking with other people who were midlife and beyond, like me, other creators, right? And we were swapping stories and exchanging things. And I thought, wow, this feels so different. This feels so much lighter than trying to speak to everyone in a specific space. So even though I shifted stories, here's what happened though. I spotted something recently. The old story was sneaking in. It was sneaking in. I thought I had shifted, but I was overproducing. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I haven't done my live stream. I haven't prepared for this week. I need to hurry up and go. And so I was stressing out. And I was starting to build up anxiety around it. And I was starting to feel like, oh my God, this is another job. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. And I was feeling lost. What am I going to talk about? I know I had a plan, but I've scrapped the whole plan. So what am I going to talk about? And I was feeling like I just don't want to do this anymore. Because the old story kept sneaking in, telling me, feed the beast, and do the things that you did before. You got to hustle, 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 and make it happen. And I know better because I have a different story now. So spotting the old loops that you fall into That's tip number 2. I was feeling guilty if I didn't post for a week, y'all. Even though I've told myself now my languaging is not I'm on every Thursday, it's I'm on most Thursdays. I give myself that grace. I tell people that I'm on most Thursdays. But that old story kept sneaking into this new season. And I started feeling guilty. And then it becomes this vicious cycle of where you're just beating yourself up because you feel like you're supposed to be doing the things that you did in your 20s and 30s. And guess what? That's not truth. That's just something you're feeding yourself because you're used to it and you're comfortable with the old story. And you broke those shoes in. Remember we talked about the size 6 shoes? Those were your favorite shoes. You broke them in. And you feel like maybe I could just try to put them on and maybe I could stretch them out a little bit so it'll fit my size 7 foot, but it doesn't. And so then you start feeling uncomfortable and you just don't want to do it anymore. Some examples. What does this look like for you? Because I'm curious. What does this look like for you? It could look like you're over delivering, which then leads to burnout. It could look like you're editing endlessly. It could look like you are saying yes to everything that comes your way when you know you don't have the time, the energy, and it's not even the thing you want to talk about anymore. So why are you saying yes when you know you need to be saying no? It's because you're allowing your old story to sneak in and fool you into thinking, wait, this still could be. You got this little whisper saying, well, this still could be true. But it really isn't. It's not what fits you anymore. And it's okay to let it go. So I'm going to give you this actionable takeaway number 2, and then I'm going to catch some comments, okay? Takeaway number 2. This week, I want you to reflect because we're about to end this week. I want you to reflect on this past week, and I want you to notice one loop where you're defaulting to old habits. Because those old habits and that old story you were telling yourself is your comfort zone. And as you are thinking about that, I want you to journal about it. I want you to write it down on a sheet of notebook paper or wherever it is you keep your things. Maybe use Evernote, something like that, Notion. But I want you to jot down when you're noticing this week, think about the things that have happened. When did you default back to your old story? I want you to find it because it could be a little sneaky. And if you can't recognize anything in the past couple of days, I want you to really focus in on this tomorrow and over the weekend. Jot it down. And I want you to come back to this video and let me know if you don't know. If you do know and you want to put something in the chat, put it in the chat. I want to hear from you. Okay, let's look at some comments. Let me gauge some things here. Yes. I am reflecting my season that I'm in at the present time in my journey. Yes, yes, yes. Let's see. Yes, being like a slave to the algorithm, right? That's almost like a song that used to be sang by Grace Jones. You do get to choose. You do get to choose. John says, let it go, let it go. I know, right? From the movie Frozen. Let it go. You don't worry about it anymore. I know. Stream Like a Boss Masterclass. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Platform proof. Colette, that's my thing. This is my new story. And I have to look, the new story will guide you. I want to talk about that in a second. But yeah, I definitely want to come back to that. Platform proof and algorithm independent all day. All day. Saeed said, I create content when I feel like it. I never plan or schedule any of it. It keeps it fun for you. I love that you can do that. I love it. Live every ish Thursday. Right. Sue Ann says, listening to yourself and not the masses makes all the difference. It really, really does. It's so different when you realize that you get to choose. You get to choose. It's your story. It's your chapters that are being written. So why are we allowing somebody else? And that includes the algorithms. Why are we allowing them to choose for us? And again, I get it. I know the hustle life is real. I know that a lot of people are really trying to, gain momentum and keep momentum and all of that. But some of the things, if you go and you watch, for instance, on YouTube right now, there are so many people. Vanessa Lau, she's somebody I have followed for a long time. And I love how transparent she is when she talks about how she built up her, successful business and presence on YouTube. And then she was completely burnt out and had to go away for a while and come back with a whole different story. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about story right now. Part of it, I do think, is because of what we're going through as a nation, but even internationally and just as a society. So I do think that is forcing some of us to have to look at, what do I stand for? Who am I really? What do I believe? What are my values? What's important to me? What is priority above all else? And so I shared a Facebook post, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, that is resonating with some folks, because I do have to come back now and then, not only remind myself of who I am and what I stand for, but others as well, so that you know if my space is the right space for you. Because my story today as a 50-something is way different. Remember, I talked about being a conformist and wearing the suits and the pantyhose or stockings and the heels. And today I wear jeans and I wear a t-shirt and I wear a baseball cap if I want to. I'm still just as professional as ever. And yeah, I still can look cute in my jeans. I love jeans, right? But I'm doing things the way that feels right for me, that gives me comfort, that gives me joy, instead of conforming. Now, I'm not telling you not to show up excellent, because we should always show up with excellence in everything that we do. If we're putting ourselves out there and we want to purport ourselves to be a professional in what we do, that should be believable to the audience or the market for which we're trying to attract, right? But at the same time, it doesn't mean you need to conform to someone else's perception of who you should be. So let's talk about tip 3. And this is my final tip on this, okay? Choosing your new story. Choosing your new story, because maybe you don't know what that is. You're naming the old story. You're seeing when it's seeping in. And it's blocking you. It's causing a roadblock to your content. It's keeping you from being able to write because you just don't feel it right now. It's keeping you from being aligned with the message that you know in this moment you're designed to share. See, what I think is people fall into this trap of, purpose. A lot of us remember the purpose-filled life, right? Purpose-filled Bible, there were a whole merch line, all of that. And we feel like, hey, I found my purpose and this is going to be my purpose for the rest of my life. And that may not be true. We have different chapters being written. Every year I look at now as a different chapter. This is chapter 54 for me. And it is very different from chapter 23. It's very different from chapter 13. It's very different from even chapter 50, right? Choosing your new story, this may not be the last time. If you do the work right now and you shift, this may not be the last time that you're shifting. You may end up growing and maturing or having an experience or more than one experience that leads you in a different direction in the next 10 years. And that's okay. But as you're choosing and you're finding and discovering about yourself what that story looks like today so that you can be fully aligned, you've got to update your GPS. if you keep driving towards the old destination, even the best system won't get you where you want to go. You might have your GPS up and it's telling you to head to Florida. I know we have a Florida person that visited here in the chat. You may be saying, hey, that's where I want to go. But for some reason, you keep ending up back at your own house. Just out of habit, right? You're not following the GPS. You put the directions and the instructions in there, but you keep deviating from the plan. Today, my story is different. I talked about the fact that I own my space, and I talked about the whole platform proof thing. I don't need to chase an algorithm. I don't feel like I have to do that. If 500 people show up when I'm in a room, great. But if 5 people show up, I'm going to operate the same as I would have with the 500. I'm going to be on. I'm going to make sure that they get the message. I'm going to be honest and direct. I know that the content that I share matters because it reflects who I am now. I'm confident about that right now in this moment. So something I was telling my friend James Hicks, because he was asking the other day, what's this shift like? What are you getting ready to do that's going to be different from the content that you were sharing? And I said, I don't know. I'm kind of in the midst of that. I'm in the midst of that journey right now and identifying what the story looks like. I know the things that I love. I love to talk about systems and workflows, and I love to talk about apps, but I don't talk about them the way that I talked about them a year ago and beyond that, when I used to promote a lot of the different AppSumo and lifetime deal stuff. I don't as much anymore because I've got a new set of experiences and I've been informed differently by things that have happened over the last year or so. And so it's important to me to still, even though I have my same core values, the way in which I talk about digital apps and systems and tools is going to look a lot different than it did 1 and 2 years ago. But I'm in the process of finding out and discovering what is it about me that I want to carry into the new story for the people that I'm talking to. And do the people need to shift? The people I was talking to, does that need to shift too? These are questions I'm asking myself. I'm in the process of doing that now. And it's one of the reasons why I created a whole new program. I shared this on my Facebook post and I shared it with my stream bosses today. It's a program called Second Act Story. secondactstory.com. So if you end up going to streamlikeaboss.tv, if you go over to my website, you're probably going to see that pop up. And the reason why I created this is a 4-week program. And I said, I'm going to do 4 weeks for $40, which is crazy, I know. But I'm going to jump on. We're going to do a co-working session once a week for an hour, every week in October for 1 hour, so that while I'm working on this process of going through and doing deeper dives into my own story, I'm pulling along my stream bosses. And then they were like, hey, well, what about other people? And I said, okay, I'm going to open it up to other people too, to just come along for the ride. So if that's something of interest to you, reach out, DM me, or go to secondactstory.com. Of course, I bought the domain. Of course I did. But you'll learn more about it there. And it is targeting people, creators, coaches, consultants who are over 40 that are doing a deeper dive into your own storytelling, specifically because I want your video content to be stellar. If you're doing video podcasts, if you're doing live streams, the conversation may need to look different than what you've been doing. And so my niche still is at the center, but I wanted to do this deeper dive. And I was going to do it with or without anyone else, but I love to bring people alongside. So just know that that's something we're going to be doing. We'll have worksheets and templates and we'll have some structure to it, but I like calling it a co-working lab because we are going to be interactive and we are going to be working on our own stuff. Everybody's digging deeper into their own stuff. Some of it may be highly confidential and sensitive, so we will have it in a private space. Okay, it's not going to be accessible to everyone in the public. But here's action item 3. So when I talk about today being a new story for me, you've got to choose your new story and get really clear about what that looks like for you. Put it on paper, and that's what we're going to be doing in class. Put it on paper, solidify it, explore how this is changing the way that your bio reads. Explore the way how this has changed the way that you're doing keynotes. Maybe your presentation that you've been doing for the last 15 years is now a new title with new content. It's different now because you're a different person in a different chapter of your life. And I just want us to really lean into that. I really do. So here's the homework. Choose one anchor word. And if you have one right now, you can absolutely put that into the chat. Colette, I see that you're interested. I'll type it in just a second and put it on screen so that it will be easy for you to find it. Okay. And this first launch that I'm doing in October, it's every Tuesday in October, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, Central U.S. Time. That's when we're going to do it. So, action. Choose one anchor word. One anchor word that reflects the story you want to create from now. So maybe the anchor word is ease. For me, that's one of them. By the way, I got to see The Wiz this past weekend. So do you remember the song, Ease on Down the Road? That just kept that was in my head repetitively the whole time after we got done watching the play. It was amazing. Broadway, Dallas. But ease. Maybe it's joy, sovereignty, impact, fun, creative. What's your anchor word going to be that you're going to hang on to as you're looking and identifying what your news story is? Pick an anchor word, and you can use this as a filter for content. You can use this as a filter for your content. So type in your anchor word if you have one in the chat. What story do you want your content to reflect moving forward? Now, what you'll find when you start getting clarity around that story, when I talked about the whole platform proof and algorithm independent, those phrases really stuck with me and they help me make decisions about how I operate. So as you start to identify the words, the anchor words, and the new story you're telling yourself, it's going to help become a guide. It's like a roadmap becomes clear for you so that as opportunities come your way and different people come to seek you out as clients, you'll be able to set the right type of boundaries to continue to write that story in a way that is resonating with you, in a way that feels aligned and feels right. Instead of constantly fighting the flow, you end up being in flow. You end up feeling more clear. You end up being more consistent. You end up showing up for yourself and for the other people who depend on you and rely on you to be there, to be present, to be seen, to be noticed, right? Your story shapes your content. The question is, are you telling the old story or are you starting to begin to tell the story that reflects where you are right now? That's the question for you. All right, let me get some comments and then we're going to go ahead and do a quick wrap up and we will get ready to call it a night. We're at the top of the hour. I can't believe it. Okay. So I see some words. I love the anchor words I'm seeing. I love it. Free, Jose. Yes. Free. I love that word. Just saying that word feels good. Let's see. There's no point in arriving super fast at the wrong destination. Exactly. We can take our time. We can do some deeper dives. And that's what number 3 tip is about, is doing the deeper dives. I love the idea of co-creative environment. Yes, Dr. Vibe, it's amazing. It's fun. It's fun to do. Colette, I'm definitely going to pop that in here in just a second, I promise. Sue Ann says, sounds great. Limitless. Dwayne Wood, Dr. Wood in the house. Limitless. Yes. I love these words, y'all. Keep them coming. Whatever your safe word will be. The anchor word for you, what is that? Okay, let's do a recap real quick. So, number 1, your old story may be holding your content back. I think you get the picture. We talked about the shoe size. You can't go from a size 6 to a size 8, coming back to a size 7, and still go back and try to fit into that 6 without discomfort. And you could really be ruining your feet, by the way. So think about that analogy for your life. If you are still trying to operate under the chapter that was written for you in your 20s, and now you're in your 50s, I bet it feels real uncomfortable right now. You get a chance to retell that story or tell it in a new way. Number 2, notice where it's sneaking in. If you're carrying the old story with you, where in your life, in your content, in your business, is that continuing to sneak in and create roadblocks and dissension and confusion? Instead of you having clarity, instead of you being able to make decisions that you're confident about, instead of you being able to show up with consistency, you're falling behind because you're feeling that misalignment and you may not quite understand what it is. But if you've named what that old story is, you can start to identify where it's sneaking in. And then number 3 is where you're choosing that anchor word for your new story to begin. You're doing the deeper dive in the research and the evaluation of what you want your new story to look like, because then you'll begin to create content that reflects the season that you're in right now. I can speak to you maturely today because I am where I am, because I've experienced what I've experienced. I could not have spoken to you the way that I do with such confidence in my 20s. I hadn't really experienced life yet in the way that I have today. So how are you showing up differently? And again, it may not even be an age thing for you. Part of it for me, a big part of it is that for me, because of all the things that have happened and the way that I'm consuming information and interpreting it is way different now than it was before. The things that were priority to me before, those are no longer priority. I've got a different set of things that are important to me. For instance, it's important to me today, knowing where I am and how far I've come, for me to reach back and to pull next generation up and to say, hey, let me role model for you what it could look like, because you're seeing so much craziness out there. How can I stand up and be someone that shows grace, that shows compassion for other people, that is respectful? Because we're seeing such the opposite with our leadership right now. And it's nuts. But that's for me. That's part of my story. What's your story? What is different for you now? Who is important to you now? And how are you going to show up in a way that you can draw the attention of those people and help to make the difference that you can make? You and only you can make. What does that look like? Okay. I know this might have felt a little bit heavy. I see that word conduit. Sue Ann, I love it. I hope it didn't feel too heavy, because we do have fun in here. We do. And next week I'm going to do How about this? We'll do some type of demo or workflow. We'll do a deep dive into a system. We'll do that. But this was on my heart. And because I know I really, really want to invite you into the second act story, I wanted to make sure I covered what that was all about, what I meant by that today. So let me pop up. Let me do this because I promised I would put this up here for Colette and for anyone else who's interested. It is second. Hold on a second. I can't type today. If you have questions or comments, I want you to go ahead and put those into the chat so I can acknowledge you before we leave for this evening. For me, it's been fun. I hope that you have learned a little something. I appreciate you engaging in the chat and the comments and, sharing a little bit about your story and your anchor words and all of those things. That's some good stuff. That lights me up. That's what I get excited about now. So yeah, here's the actual link. It should be second act story. And I want to double check because I just launched it or opened it today. So let's make sure. And we're going to be hosting this, inside of my private community. So secondactstory.com. Feel free to join us. This will be the first time I've done it. We're going to have some very specific exercises and things that we're going to do. It's going to go a little deep, but it's all good, right? It's all good. And it will be confidential, whatever we share as far as our stories. And you can keep it light if you want to keep it light about just your business. But sometimes the things that happen to our personal selves bleeds over into our professional selves too. In fact, I would probably say 99.9% of the time that's happening. Anywho, y'all, thank you so much for showing up and for being here with me. Don't forget to subscribe over at streamlikeaboss.tv. Subscribe. And also make sure, if you haven't already, liked and followed and shared this message with a friend who might need to hear the same thing. You can see the replay everywhere with the exception of Facebook, who likes to delete their stuff after 30 days as live streams are gone, right? So you're very welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. Is an anchor word similar to my word of the year? Absolutely, Colette, it can be. Your anchor word is what will remind you every time you start to steer away and you're seeing that your old story is sneaking in. It's going to do a couple of things for you. Your anchor word is reminding you of the new story you're creating, but also it's helping you to form that new story if you're in the process of discovery and researching. What is it that you want? What do you want to lean in on? And so that could very well have been your word of the year. It's up to you. There is no wrong answer. All right, folks. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I will see you next week. I know that there were a couple of questions and requests for topics a couple of weeks ago. I need to go back and look at those notes because you had some very specific things you want me to talk about. And I love when you send those suggestions. So feel free to send the suggestions and let me know, hey, this is what I want to learn from you, Tanya. And I am more than happy to entertain that and see what we can come up with. And I'm hoping that we can get finally our Rodecaster Pro 2 back up and running so we can take some live calls next week. So let's look for that to happen as well. All right. Thank you as well. Have a good night or good day, depending on where you are, because I know we have folks that are across the ponds. Just stay safe, right? And the thing that I also always want to tell you is if your content feels stale, it's not just the environment. It might be the story that you're creating from. Until next time, own your story, own your space, and I will see you in the stream. All right, y'all.
Building a space where the bold come to play. Stream like a boss, this is your day. Stream like like a boss, take the crown. Lift your hustle, don't back down. Build your crew,